Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Miss Aisha Siddiqui. I'm here to teach you all optional English, that is also English literature known worldwide. I'm very happy to talk to you all again and hope you all are enjoying my videos. We have almost covered the stories part, and in the last video, I did the meanings of the lesson, the open window. I hope you all enjoyed this chapter. It is really, really interesting, and the girl in it, her character is really funny, and people might not like the character, but I personally really like her character as she plays pranks. And I do not like her for troubling people, but playing pranks is, I think, yeah, you should know on whom you're playing prank and which category of people, what is the situation or what is the condition of the person. So in this story, she plays a prank on a person who is an old man and he's not well. So that is not right. But playing pranks is it's actually so much fun, right? We can play pranks on our relatives, on our cousins, friends and all, but to know what is the situation. So if someone is dead in their house or someone is not well in their house and you're playing prank on them, it is not right, right? That is not the situation that you can play pranks with your friends. So you should know the situation and condition and then play prank. Yes, do play pranks with people. Yeah, you can trouble your friends a lot, but looking at the situation. So in this story, the little girl plays prank. She plays prank with that old man who's not well, and he runs away. And there quickly she makes another story. So I hope you all have seen the last video to know what is the story of the open window. And then we have also done the meanings, all of the meanings of the chapter. We've learned how to put them into sentences, how will you put them into your communication skills and all. So now we will be moving forward with the discussion of question and answers. So I have prepared a different type of question and answers outside the textbook, outside this Pragati book, for you all. Very short questions for you all to have a deeper understanding of the story. So first we'll be doing those question and answers, and then few question and answers I've picked up from the same book. So we will also be continuing with the question and answers, very few that I've marked from here, mostly the characteristics, how the person is. So first we'll go with the question and answers that I have done with you all. Even before that, we'll have a quick recap of the story and the meanings that we did last. Here I'm back. I'm sharing my screen, and here we go. So the open window, it will be a very quick recap. So the ones who are seeing this video for the first time, not seeing the previous video, so you will not understand the story so quickly. So please watch my previous video to see the story, and this will be a quick recap. So the name of the story is The Open Window. Let's do the introduction part. This is a small story written by Saki. His name is also written as H. Munro. The story revolves around an open window, a little window, and a smart storyteller girl. Her name is Vera, and she's niece of Mrs. Sapleton, who's another character in the story. The story is an amusing story about how a girl spins all stories and she makes fishy stories about things and people in a short period of time. Then who's Mr. Frampton Nuttall here? He's an old man who's suffering from nervous ailment. Then he retires to his countryside for some cure. He has come to the countryside to cure his ailment, and he has come to a family friend, that means his sister's friend, who is Mrs. Sapleton. And the younger girl, the teenage girl, that is Vera, is Mrs. Sapleton's niece. So on calling, the lady of the house was really busy. So Mrs. Sableton was busy, and that is why her young niece comes and talks to Mr. Frampton Nuttall. And there, when she comes to know that he is, you can see here, Mr. Frampton Nuttall has come to house, and you can see the open window behind in the picture, and the girl talking to him. So Vera, the niece, the small girl is Vera, the niece. So she's very quick-witted niece. In her conversation, she finds out that Mr. Nuttall does not know about the country, and he also does not know about her own aunt, and he is meeting her aunt for the first time. So she narrates to him a mishap that has happened about 3 years ago, and Mr. Nuttall's sister was also not there. So very cleverly, she says that your sister also might not be knowing the story, and she must have not told you the story, but this story is real. And she tells him that Mrs. Sapleton's husband had gone out with her younger brother, a friend, and a dog, spaniel, outside to play a game, and then they never returned back. So they were tricked. You can see, and Mrs. Sapleton did not overcome that shock. She sits outside the window waiting for them, and she does not know that they are dead. Even though she knows that they're dead, but she does not overcome that shock. She thinks that her husband, her younger brother, friend, and the dog will come back someday. So sad demise of Mr. Sapleton and his team. Now, how did they go? How did they? How the story that she created? She's saying that how they died. The niece told Mr. Nuttall that though they were very regular gamers, that they knew the countryside very well, the roads, the places, but still that day they were tricked by quicksand. Quicksand in Hindi it is called dal dal. If you know what is quicksand, the sand actually moves down from your leg and you go inside. So, and you cannot bring yourself outside from that sand. Their body was never found. So in a quicksand, that body is never found. So she's saying that their bodies were not found, and that is the reason Mrs. Sapleton thinks that her husband and the younger brother, friend, dog, they all will come back someday. And she sits and she always leaves the window open for them to come back. And this is little bit of horror, little bit of exciting the story. So now here, after the little niece has told all the story to Mr. Nuttall, later on when Mrs. Sapleton comes, she also talks about her husband's return. Now her husband is not actually dead, but because the niece has made up a story, Mr. Nuttall is getting scared that why is she talking about the dead? So she's really, maybe she's gone mad, or she keeps on talking about her husband, or she's really not come out from the shock. So he wants to help her, and that's why he keeps on changing the topic. But there she keeps on talking about her husband, that he'll be coming with her younger brother, and her younger brother will start teasing her as usual. The dog and their friend will come together, and because they're playing a game, they will spoil all the carpet with mud. And also she keeps on talking about her husband, unknowingly that Mr. Nuttall is thinking that they're dead. So there she keeps on talking. And arrival of Mr. Sapleton and his team. So after some time, when Mr. Sapleton and his team, that is the brother of the lady and the dog and their friend, they actually arrive from the game. The niece looked scared, so she's acting. She's actually acting in front of Mr. Nuttall. So she's not scared because she knows they're alive, but she's trying to show Mr. Nuttall that even she's scared. So Mr. Nuttall couldn't help turning behind. So as the lady saying, there my husband has come, so he's thinking they are dead, right? So he's very scared. And then sometimes it happens, right, that we feel that something is behind us. There's nothing behind us, but we feel that there's someone behind us, and we tend to turn behind and look. So he could not help turning in that direction, and then he saw three human figures and a dog coming towards them. So three human figures, right? They were real human beings, but Mr. Nuttall was so scared because he thought that they are dead people. So there she's giving a reaction that how are they coming? Exchange of pleasantries. Now Mrs. Sapleton greeted her husband and remarked that he was in mud up to his eyes, and her brother also teased as usual. So whatever Mrs. Sapleton said, it came true. That they came, the husband came and he spoiled the carpet, and her brother started teasing her, and everything is happening the same. So quick exit of Mr. Nuttall. Looking at all this, Mr. Nuttall could not help. He was so scared that he took his hat and his stick and he ran and ran. He ran so fast that he actually dashed and met with an accident with a cyclist. So Mr. Sapleton, the husband of this lady, is asking why this guest who had come, he ran so fast looking at me. Why was he so scared? There the niece of Mrs. Sapleton has turned the story and she made a new story, that because by the time the lady was busy inside, Mr. Nuttall actually told the niece a story that he was very scared of dogs. And that is the reason he saw Spaniel, that is their dog, and he got scared and he ran away. So there, she's very happy playing with the dog because she has fooled two people. She's fooled her aunt and uncle, and she's also fooled the man who's running there. So another story that the niece made was, I already told you all that he had met that he's very scared of dogs. As why was he scared of dogs? That too she made up a story that once he was chased by a pack of dogs. So and then he had to hide or take refuge in a newly dug grave. So here she's made up a new story again. So this was the story that I we have finished in the previous lecture. So we are done with the story part, and now I will take another quick recap of the meanings that we did previously, and then we will move forward to the discussion of question and answers. I'm sharing my screen for the PowerPoint presentation of meanings. Here we go. So what do you mean by the word cherubic? Now in the picture you can see a very cute little girl with chubby cheeks and round face, and she's looking like an angel, so innocent, so beautiful. So what do you mean by cherubic? Cherubic resembles an angel portrait. That means she's looking like an angel, a girl who looks like a fairy or an angel with round face and chubby cheeks, and she looks very innocent and sweet. So was Vera cherubic? Oh, not at all. She was not at all cherubic, as she was not sweet and innocent. Obviously, after we know the story, we will not tell that she was cherubic. But yes, the antonyms, that is the opposite, might work for Vera. So she was actually the opposite of cherubic, that will be devilish. So she likes to trouble people around, and she makes up horrible stories for people to be scared, and she keeps on lying every time. So that is not called sweet and innocent. So yes, she's the antonym of cherubic, that is devilish. Now eminent. Eminent is, let's make a sentence out of eminent. A group of eminent scientists met to discuss long-term changes in Earth's climate. Now what do you mean by eminent? Eminent means famous, outstanding people. The people that you know very well can be actors, footballers, cricketers. These people we know very well, right? And we can distinguish. So we know the cricketers. If you put a Virat Kohli's photograph, the people will say, right, that he's Virat Kohli, he's a cricketer. Or if you put another footballer like Ronaldo, so they will say he's a footballer and he's a cricketer. So we can distinguish between them. And projecting, that means we can look at them and we can know who they are. So they're so famous. Like the scientists here, they were well-known scientists. Now, synonyms of eminent can be very famous and renowned people. What are the antonyms? Just the opposite. The people who are not at all famous, they are nameless and lowly. We don't know them. So, are there any eminent characters in the story? No, they are not, because there are no cricketers, there are no batsmen or footballers or actors or singers. We don't know them actually. They're all new characters in the story. So we don't have any professional association of them given as they were the cricketer, or they're just simple people, a story of simple people, the story of no eminent people. Now, what do you mean by irate? Irate is simply known as irritated. Irritated due to what? Long delays caused by bad weather, right? If you have to wait for a long time due to some bad weather, or you're waiting in the car and there's snowfall outside, so you cannot go ahead where you want to go, you're in a hurry. So for a long time, if you have to wait, even the most calm person can get irritated, is known as irate. The synonyms are frustrated, angry, and the antonyms are to stay cool and calm. That is the opposite. So here you can see the meaning of irate. There's an angry bird, because the synonym of irate is angry. Now here, who was irritated? Frampton or Vera? Who was actually very angry? nobody was very angry in the story. Now, Frampton was nicely listening to Vera, and Vera was nicely telling a horror story to him. So, who is the opposite though? Is there anyone calm, composed, and cool? Yes, Vera was definitely calm and she was in full control as she was the one controlling the situation. Now, let's go to the question answers part. That is the main part of today's session. From what does Frampton Nuttall suffer? I'm giving you a second time because I've already told you the story. By now, you all should know what was he suffering from. What was the disease or what was the ailment that he was suffering from? Anxiety. He goes away to get better but ends up feeling worse. Now here, he was suffering from anxiety. That is also, I gave you all in the meanings from this book that I read, a meaning that was nerve cure. That means he had a nervous ailment, anxiety, that is called. Anxiety is to have a lot of stress regarding something in your life. So it can be stress, tension, or even because of the stress and tension, you can get high and low BP or some type of problem. A lot of headache, can be migraine. So anxiety is a thing. He goes away. Mr. Frampton Nuttall was suffering from anxiety, and this was the reason he had come to the countryside to have cure. But still, he ends up feeling worse as he has it in the situation increases more anxiety in his mind, in his emotional and mental state, because there he is given, I mean, he hears a very a horror story from a little girl. He thinks that it is true, but it is not actually true. But so because of this situation, his anxiety increases. Another question: what did Frampton's sister give him to take with him, and why? What did Frampton's sister give him? So it is not actually mentioned in the story, but it is an indirect way of mentioning. So she had given him letters of introduction. She can't go with him. So she was a little busy with something else. So that is the reason she couldn't go with him to the countryside. But she gave him a letter of introduction because Mrs. Sapleton was actually Frampton's sister's friend. So Mrs. Sapleton was not Mr. Frampton's friend. So that is the reason she had given a letter of introduction, so that Mrs. Sapleton knows who this man is coming to my house. So it must be, now they have not given what all was in the introduction, but if we think about it, what will it be, right? So it can be that the sister of Frampton must have written that I am so and so, my name, and I'm your neighbor, or I am your friend, and this is my brother who's suffering from a nervous ailment. So he has come to countryside for some cure. Please allow him little time in your house by the time I get free and I come back. So maybe this must be an introduction letter for him. And let's see the next question. What does Frampton know about Vera's aunt? Does Frampton know anything? Because Vera's aunt, Mrs. Sapleton, is not actually Frampton's friend. She is his sister's friend. I just told you the sister had written an introductory letter. So nothing much to Vera's delight. Now, why Vera's delight? Vera was very happy as she had come to know that Frampton does not know her aunt. Because if he knew her aunt, she could not prank him, correct? And she could not trouble him. So she had to be very good. But once she comes to know that she is not Vera's, I mean, he does not know Vera, I mean, he does not know Vera's aunt, and she starts playing a prank with him. What is the story that Vera tells Frampton? What does she say happened 3 years ago? Now, here's the whole story that Vera has made in order to trouble Frampton. The husband of Mrs. Sapleton and the two young brothers and a dog went out on a night just like this. That means she's saying it was the same date that you have come to my house, and they never came back. So there she's scaring him. So the window stays open in the case they'll return. Now he's sitting just in front of the window. So she's scaring him with the window. Tonight is the anniversary of the night they left. So it is the anniversary that they had gone. Maybe they will be returning at the same night. So she is actually trying to scare him. What a coincidence that you have come on the same night. What does Frampton react so strangely when Vera's aunt returns to the room? Vera's aunt starts talking about how she hopes the guy will come back soon. That means her husband and all will come back very soon. Now he feels very sorry and he starts feeling uncomfortable because she thinks that because Frampton thinks that her husband is dead and she's going on talking about him. Maybe she is not well and even she's suffering through some anxiety, and that is the reason he tries to make her feel he tries to change the topic. What does Frampton run out? Why does Frampton run out of the house? Everyone returns, including the dog. Remember, as far as Frampton knows, they were all dead. Now, they were all dead, and that is why he's very scared of them. What reason does Vera give for why Frampton ran off? Now she has made another story, right? So let's see. The dog was scary. How would you describe Frampton? Now, she just said that the dog was very scary and Mr. Nuttall. Now, you can make this answer a very big one, yes, but I have put it into a sentence so we can have a quick revision of the story as well. So, she makes up a story on the dog and she says that Frampton Nuttall was scared of dogs. How would you describe Frampton? Obviously, he is anxious and likely to avoid interaction with others. So he was a very reserved kind of person. As his sister says, so maybe the sister told her friend that he is very nervous and he is a very reserved kind of a person. He does not talk to people more. Now he is also fairly gullible, given that he believes Vera's story. Now here it means that he is a type of a person, superstitious person, that he believes in whatever the other people say. But overall, he seems to be kind. So he's not bad enough. He feels bad for Vera's aunt, right? That she's lost a husband, a brother, and her dog, a friend. So he feels bad about it. So he's a kind person and all. How does Frampton describe Vera at the beginning of the story? Now, why we are saying Frampton describes? Because Frampton is actually telling the story. The narrator of the story is Frampton himself. So he must have come to know that this was a story later on, and that is why he has written it, showing that how a little girl fooled him. So in the starting, he must have not known, right, that this little girl is so devilish. So he in the starting, he's written that she was a different kind of person. She was self-possessed young lady of 15. So she was a 15-year-old girl, a lady, and was self-possessed. That means she loved herself a lot, and she was a very confident girl. What motivates Vera to create conflict where none exists? Do you think she's happy with the results? So she has already created conflicts by creating up so many stories. She is bitter than she is being introduced to this guy. So when Frampton thinks of her in the starting, he thinks of her very nicely, that she is a confident girl and all, but she is a bitter girl. She resents the idea that she has to be nice to people. She does not like the idea that we have to be nice to everyone. Why should I be nice to everyone, right? She thinks in a way, because they're guests, only because they're guests we have to be nice to people. Now this is a very bad thinking. Yes, you have to be nice to your guest, and you cannot trouble them and make them scared out of something, and like uh, like you can just make them go away from their house. She's likely very pleased with the results. She's very happy that he ran away. Okay. The open window, romance at short notice was her specialty. Now, romance, there's nothing of romance in the story. Why is romance here? In this case, it does not mean romance as in love or adventure or some heroic things happening. It actually means that the mystery, the horror that she has created, it was her specialty to do all that. Define dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when the audience knows something that the characters do not. Now, this story is a dramatic irony because when we read the story in the starting, we know that Vera is actually making a story. The husband and the people are not dead. No one is dead. We, the readers, the audience actually knows that they are not dead. But in the in the story, one character or two character does not know. Now, in some suspense stories, we don't know what is going to happen in the end, right? But in the dramatic irony, we know what is going to happen, but in the movie they're showing the characters do not know. What do we know about Vera at the end of the story that Frampton does not know? How would our description of her differ from Frampton's? Now we know that the story is all made up and he didn't like a ghost like he thought. He didn't see a ghost like he thought. So we all know that there were no ghosts coming. Those three human figures that were coming, they were no ghosts. They were actually human beings. And they had actually gone for playing a game and they've returned back. But he thinks that he's seeing ghosts. We know that she's a liar. While Frampton likely thinks that of her as he did in the beginning, a self-possessed young lady. Now we know as the reader that Vera is a liar. She's cheating him. She's troubling him. She's playing a prank with him. But Frampton, even in the end of the story, does not know that she has made up all this, and he still thinks that that the little girl is a self-possessed young girl. So all these things we know from the beginning of the story, but the character that is Frampton does not know. So that is why this story can be named as a dramatic irony. So here we have done with almost the extra questions, and I have already covered up all the questions from what I have made for you all. And yes, I can do a few more. I just want to do uh, the characteristics. The characteristics means the people, the characters in the story and how they were, what they were, how they felt, and to describe the characteristics of the people in the story. So I have just taken on Frampton Nuttall to explain his character and another answer just to in all like a fast recap of the whole thing, the open window, what it is, how, why it is. So let's start with the characteristic of Frampton Nuttall. Frampton Nuttall is the main person in the story, right? He's the one who is suffering from some ailment. He's the one who comes to their house. He's the one who's fooled. He's the one who runs away. And later on, he's the one who comes to know that he was fooled by a 15-year-old girl. The Open Window by Saki. This story is a fascinating story. Presently, he is undergoing a strange nervous state. Who he, Frampton Nuttall, is undergoing a nervous ailment state, a state of mind where he feels stressful very quickly, where he can actually have tension about anything. So the little girl, she made up a story. If we would be in front of that little girl, we would just say, "Ha! Don't try to fool me," right? Or we would say, "Just don't be a liar. You're just lying about all this," right? But a person who suffers from anxiety can be tricked very easily and can be manipulated very fast. So if you see a person suffering from anxiety, you cannot be so harsh and hard on him. You have to be very soft with him. You cannot trouble him even in little small stories. You have to be very careful that even though something is real happening and something stressful is happening, that story should not reach him. Suppose someone in the family died out of something, or someone who's is suffering from a virus or something. In today's time, if I say that a person from your family, from your extended family, is suffering from a virus, and another person is suffering from a nervous ailment or anxiety, so the person who's suffering from anxiety should not come to know about the other person is suffering from virus, because that will actually overtake his mind and he will keep on thinking about that he's suffering from a virus, maybe he'll die, or this will happen, that will happen. The virus person will not die, he will be cured maybe later on, but the person who's suffering from nervous ailment might die out of the anxiety and stress he has taken. So we have to be very calm and good with the people who are suffering from anxiety. But here what happens, Frampton Nuttall is actually suffering from anxiety, but this little girl does not know all this and she plays a prank with him. So his sister, that is Frampton's sister, has given him some letters of introduction. So the sister, Frampton's sister, did not come with him, and therefore she sent her brother to a friend's place. Who's the friend? Mrs. Sappleton. She tells him the secret of the relation between the open window. Now, Vera is telling Frampton the relation of the open window and the lady. So she's making up a story. This open window is kept open every time because Mrs. Sappleton thinks that she'll be coming. I mean, her husband will come back and the younger brother will come back. So he is horrified to know that aunt's husband, brother, and dog have not come back since 3 years. So he gets very horrified and scared with the story that Vera has told him that they are dead, and this aunt and her aunt keeps on sitting near the window waiting for him. So yet her aunt is waiting for their arrival. She keeps on waiting. When the aunt arrives, she also speaks about the open window. Now there, when the aunt arises, but unknowingly, the aunt is not trying to fool Mr. Frampton Nuttall. She's actually telling the truth. So the aunt is actually saying that, you should not, if you don't mind, I always keep the window, I mean the open window, so that my husband is going to come. They have gone for a game, and she's just normally telling that my husband is going to play a game with my younger brother, a friend, and they've taken a small dog with them. So please don't mind, I'm keeping the door open so that they come back. And there he thinks that this all is real. So he thinks that the little girl who made up the story is actually true. She has said everything right. So the he is totally horrified when he finds three figures moving from afar and coming towards them. Till the end of the story, Frampton does not understand that Vera has played a trick on him. So this poor man does not know till the end. He runs away and he thinks that these people are ghosts. So this was actually the story where this is not a story, sorry. This is the characteristics of Frampton Nuttall. Let's quickly see the open window. The story, the open window, is a big French window. Now, I would like to tell you all, a French window does not actually mean a window through where, like, for ventilation, but it is a window. It is known as a window, but it is actually a door from where people can come in and out. So the open window is always kept open. When Vera learns that Frampton Nuttall does not know anything about the open window and the aunt, she tries to make up a story. The open window was a way of going out and coming in for aunt's husband. So she knows that her aunt's husband might be coming. So she tricked him with that story, the same thing. He runs away from the same open window outside, thinking that there are ghosts. So this open window has become such a big thing, such a big story. So it was so simple that the husband was going to come from that open window, but this young girl has tricked him, and he also has gone. He also ran away because he felt very scared of it. So I hope you all understood the story. We have done with the question answers part. There are few grammar topics that we'll be covering in the next lecture, in the upcoming lectures. And by the time, please keep on reading the stories and going through the question and answers from the same book that I have told you all. I am referring to the same book. So yes, you can prepare your exams through the same book. Thank you so much for seeing my video. Hoping to meet you all again very soon. By the time, take care. Stay home, stay safe.